So it's been a couple years in the making, but we've been saving up our change, in actually a cooler jar, to buy a goat because my daughter heard about it somewhere and really wanted to do it. And I was like, why not? I've done stuff like this in the past. This is great because it's inspiring my kids. But fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, because there's a lot of choices, I don't know which organization to get the goat from. There's a bunch of them that do it, and at least 8 of them I get like gift catalogs from. So I'm trying to figure out which one to get it from. There's also a little bit of criticism out there about buying goats as whether it's actually sustainably developing or not. In principle and idea, it is, because you're giving milk, you're giving ability to get cheese, you can make an income. I like cheese, so the idea of cheese sounds good. There's also fertilizer. I didn't realize that fertilizer was part of it, but I mean, you can grow so much better crops if you have fertilizer. And honestly, they reproduce really, really well. So you get one goat, you get lots of goats. Actually, I don't know why I said that. That's not true. You have to have 2 goats to get lots of goats, but it seems like a lot of the organizations try to give away multiple goats at the same time, male with multiple females or pregnant goats, because they kind of want to solve that problem for you. And of course, goats are drought tolerant for a large part, so they work in really good areas where there's droughts, and they can live pretty much all over the globe. Although I have read books about, like, for sustainable development, people giving pigs, and they thought it was a good idea, and it wasn't. So essentially, goats seem like they could be a really, really good way to empower a family, empowering women especially, but there's also the potential that maybe it's not, because we don't really know exactly how they do it, and not all the organizations just really talk about that. So not surprisingly, like I started researching all the organizations and which organizations seemed like they did better goat stuff than other organizations, which ones seem to have success from it, and it's really hard to tell. So I have a few of them, and I want your opinion, if you don't mind. And because I'm super fancy, I put it on this nice piece of paper, which is not so fancy. One of the things that stood out to us is that 2 of the organizations specifically talked about goats for women, as global inequality for women is actually very extreme in a lot of developing nations. This is kind of a big deal because a lot of women don't have a way to earn any income, or if they do, it's drastically lower than men's income. And if you know me at all, I could talk for a very long time about the effect of empowering women financially, because they pour all their money back into the community, and they make a huge difference sustainably to reduce poverty if you give money to women. So goats to women sounds good. Hopefully I'm not losing you because this is too boring, but Oxfam, I don't even know how to spell their name, Oxfam. They're a big international organization. Humanitarian, they're massive, which always makes me a little skeptical. And World Vision, which is also huge and massive too. Sorry, I had to change locations and restart this video like 5 times because my kids keep talking to me. Anyways, Oxfam and World Vision also have really good reviews overall, and good, since they are big, they have good records. I appreciated the Oxfam video that talked about how they empower women and also how they give the goats, which felt, you know, like a little bit more like I have a clue what it's going to, and it was $50, so I don't know if the goat is $50 or if that's a $50 share, but either which way, that's not too bad. And to my surprise, my kids actually liked the World Vision one, even though it wasn't in English at all, but they just liked seeing what was going down with the goats. And World Visions are $85. Again, I don't know if that's for a share or what, but I'm pretty sure it goes to goats. Honestly, unless I want to read a bunch of fine print, I'm pretty sure most of the organizations, it either goes directly to goats, but maybe not one goat. And it also, or it goes to like their agricultural like fund, and that's fine. And maybe that's heartbreaking for you that you're not actually purchasing a goat with a name and a distinct one. But in reality, it's very hard logistically to pull this type of stuff off. So, you know, the idea is to create a story for the donor, and that's important too. Shh, don't tell all the sustainable development people that I said that, but I actually believe the story for the donor kind of matters too, because they're the ones who give the money. And the story is a little bit about them, even though we're really doing it to help other people. Anyways, the goat thing, if you want to make sure that it's like really legitly sustainable, head over to like GiveWell or some organization like that that will show you how to get the best bang for your buck, or bang for your buck, or however that phrase goes. But for my kids, this is how they can be generous. But back to goats. So anyways, we got World Vision, $85. We have Oxfam, $50. And then we have ones like Samaritan's Purse, $70. Send a Cow, 33 pounds. And then we have Episcopal Relief, $80. Heifer International, $120. Actually, Heifer International is one of the people who made this idea famous many years ago. So, but I couldn't really find too much information easily about their goat stuff. Not to say that there's not a lot of information about it, but I just was doing like quick searches, and they just had the generic amount of information, whereas World Vision and Oxfam and Food for the Hungry also had videos and more about it. I did appreciate Compassion International's, they had a blog post on it that was pretty good, that my kids liked the pictures from, and theirs were $100, but Food for the Hungry, I was actually very impressed with them also. So yeah, a shout out to Food for the Hungry. I really like that organization, what they do, and a lot of the resources they produce about justice and the people who lead it from what I've seen over the last 10 years or however long I've been following them. But they had a very quick video about goats and information, and they're cheap. And there's one more that I looked at, which is World Help. Their goats were $100. I think I used to be an ambassador for them. I like their organization. They had a video too. They had Noelle Yeats, their person director. And so she was the one who was talking about the goats, which in some ways is kind of a nice touch because everybody is like, oh, I know your face, I trust you, and you're telling me to buy a goat, so I'll get a goat. On the other hand, I like the Oxfam video because it was somebody who seemed possibly local who was talking about why they're giving goats local. And maybe that's judgmental on my side, but I do value Native Workers International workers, and maybe it's also because I have the same problem being, a white person running a human trafficking organization for a global people. Anyway, it's all those things that we think about when we market. So anyways, I have this nice list of stuff for goats and where to get a goat from, and I want to know, where do you think we should get a goat from after hearing all my thoughts about these goats? Or maybe after hearing the pros and cons, maybe you're like, don't get a goat, even though I'll probably still get a goat. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. Oh, you can always DM me. Let me know what you think about goats and where to get them from and organizations and whether it's helping people. The little things like getting a goat that is helping me raise world changers. I hope and pray.